Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about the whole sore winning and entitlement issue in Dead by Daylight. People always say DBD has a super toxic community, but I will forever reiterate that compared to every other gaming community I've been a part of, from Call of Duty to World of Warcraft to Dota to hell, even Dark Souls post invasion messages, like this is one of the least toxic communities I've ever actually been a part of. It's actually generally pretty accepting to people of all creeds, and in terms of actual toxicity, like personal attacks and slurs and harassment, all that stuff, it's actually pretty good. What it's very bad with, though, is entitlement and sore winners. Entitlement being that, my fun is all that matters. Fuck you. Your fun does not matter whatsoever. And I'm entitled to have a fun game and you're not. And then sore winners are, the classic teabag. At the exit gate, I won, but now I need to make you feel even worse that I won. So here's that. And I wanted to really focus on the sore winner portion of that because I've sort of covered the other topics already, but I was never really quite able to put into words the whole sore winner topic. So what is a sore winner? It's just when somebody wins, and not only do they win, they have to rub in the fact that they've won. It's why, during, any major sports event or any sports game or anything like that, you're not allowed to have excessive celebration. That's actually a penalty because it's the whole idea of you won something and now you're rubbing it in even further. It's not professional. It's not respectable. But this game has it a lot. Now, which side does this more, Killer or Survivor? I'm going to say Survivor absolutely has sore winners way more than Killer. There's pretty much 4 times as many chances to run into that as Survivor. You can see the joke I'm making here. It's because there's 4 times as many players. I don't think there's any magical difference between Survivor players and Killer players. There are people like this on both sides. There are just 4 times as many chances they see Survivors doing it. So I don't think it has anything to do with the actual role that you play. It's just a simple numbers game. You're way more likely to see it on the Survivor side when you're playing Killer. So why do people do this? What is the main reason for sore winning? So I tried to think about the reasons that I would do it. I very rarely will teabag at the exit gate or something like that. I will never, ever really hump someone on the ground and bleed them out. I can think of 1 or 2 times in my entire life where I bled someone out on purpose. One of them was a cheater, and the other one I don't remember. But in terms of teabagging the exit gate, I've done it quite a few times. And I'm trying to think about every single time that I've done that, what was the reason for it? A lot of the time, it was because the killer was being a huge dick. And they were, they downed a baby Claudette at the start of the match and they just hovered over their body for 3 minutes and just humped them on the ground or something like that. Or just kept slapping them on hook or something like that. They were clearly trying to be a dick. And in those scenarios, yeah, it feels pretty good to give them a taste of their own medicine at the exit gate. But then we're at sort of a chicken or the egg thing. Why was that guy doing that to begin with? I'm doing it in response to him doing that, so why was he doing that? The first answer is some people are just dickheads. There's nothing you can do about that, even with the rest of my discussion justifying a lot of this stuff. Some people, I think it's the vast minority, by the way, but some people, even if they have a 4-man comp team and they escape you with 0 hooks, they will still teabag you at the exit gate because they're just shitty people in general. But I don't think that's the case for most people. I think for most people, there is some justification felt for why they're doing that. And so I really thought about what is the reason for that. And here's what I think it actually is. I think it is due towards a perceived imbalance and injustice and overcoming that, resulting in the justification for gloating. So it has to do with the fact that DBD is an asymmetrical game. And a lot of the time when you lose, it has nothing to do with you. It's because the map was bad. You brought in less stuff than the killer did. You brought in less stuff than the survivors did. You were just simply outgeared, outmatched, outperked. There's a lot of variables that can go into where someone doesn't just beat you because they're simply better than you. There could be a million things. But I truly think the main general theory of why people are sore winners in the game is because at the end of the match, they have felt that they have beat something that was unfair towards them. So let me give you just another random example. You have a Sabo squad as killer, and they're not doing gens or anything, but they are just saboing hooks, and you're not able to really hook them for quite some time. Now, obviously, within a couple of minutes, their toolboxes run out and they can't do it anymore. But a lot of killers in that scenario will, out of spite, once they get everyone down, just stop the game and just sit them on the floor for 4 minutes and just hump them repeatedly, saying, hey, you like being on the floor, blah, blah, blah. And it's because there in that scenario, the killer is being a sore winner, but it's because they perceived some sort of unfair scenario that they were getting infringed upon there, and because they overcame that unfair scenario, now it's worth it to gloat. Same thing on the survivor side. A survivor might get tunneled all match, and by some super lucky, absolutely just stroke of luck there. Nice wording, Scott. Will just perceive that as an unfair scenario that they just managed to somehow live in. And so they'll teabag at the exit gate. But a lot of the time, like in that example, the killer isn't really trying to be a dick. They're not trying to make things unfair. They just felt that's the best way to win their match. And so I really think what it boils down to is that sore winners are like that because they think they've beaten something that's unfair and that deserves gloating. But in my opinion, that's sort of a self-report that they're not very good at the game. Because think about it. If you are overcoming something you felt that was unfair or challenging, the better you are at the game, the less things you will perceive as unfair or challenging. If you're very good at the game, almost nothing seems unfair or challenging. And so you're not really ever going to be a sore winner about it because you're like, yeah, I mean, of course I'm going to win that. It was in my favor there. Like, of course I was going to win that. But the worse you are at the game, the more things you perceive as being unfair or BM or toxic or something like that. For example, a good example is tunneling. A lot of people consider tunneling to be in that category. But again, that's sort of another self-report thing. Doesn't mean they're doing that. It just means you're probably not bringing in the right build. You're just simply not good enough to slow the tunneling down enough for the killer to lose because of that. It really ends up being a skill issue and a self-report, in my opinion, in a lot of these sore winner scenarios. Because, again, I'll reiterate, if it's based off of you thinking you've overcome some huge unfair challenge, the worse you are, the more things you will perceive as an unfair challenge. And so I feel like that logic kind of tracks and makes sense. And that's why there's so many sore winners in the game, because most people are just simply not good at it. And they perceive everything to be unfair and everything to be in the other side's favor. And so it makes a lot of sense in that scenario that they would be sore winners when they overcome those challenges. But then, again, as you see people get better and better at the game, you see it less and less. Look at content creators. Very few of them are actually just being sore winners out of spite. There's usually either some extremely good reason, like they were just, absolutely beating the shit and humping a baby Claudette at 5 gens or something like that, or, just some other random thing like that. But typically, the better the player gets, the less likely it is that they will be a sore winner. So, again, there are certainly outliers. Again, there will be a comp squad that will teabag with 0 hooks at the end of the game because they're just shitty people. There will be killers that will tunnel a baby Claude out and then leave her to bleed on the ground for no reason, really, just because they're dicks. But for the most part, I do think that's the main reason people are sore winners. It comes from a perceived imbalance and believing that they've overcome some great challenge, and thus gloating is justified. That's what I think it is, and it's kind of a self-report because the better you are, the less likely you will think things are challenging or unfair. So that's my theory on it. I'm curious to hear if you guys agree or not. Thanks for watching.